I have a, all of a sudden it got loud. I have a first, and I don't remember who that was.
It was Kevin
Kevin?
and Loella.
And, all right, so I have a first and a second. Is there any discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. We move to consent calendar.
Move approval.
Second.
I have a first. I have a second. Is there any discussion? We'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. In the consent, moving on to regular agenda items. Our first agenda item 4.1, is it still that the person is? Oh, it's here? I will let you introduce.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Many of you have started to hear about the Faster Bay Area Initiative, a proposed effort to fund and improve transit network. It's our understanding that legislation may be introduced this year, so we've invited Bay Area Council to come give you a briefing. As a reminder, this is an information item. We're not asking you to take a position this evening, but we wanted to give you an opportunity to learn more and ask questions from one of the leaders of this effort. So tonight, we have a little change in the presenter listed on your agenda. Gwen Litvak, the Senior Vice President of Public Policy at Bay Area Council, is going to join me at the table and present to you. Gwen?
Hello, all. Hello, Chair Taylor. Thank you so much for having me here. My name is Gwen Litvak. I'm the Senior Vice President for Public Policy at the Bay Area Council, and I'm here on behalf of FASTER. I'll share a brief PowerPoint with you today about the potential ballot measure we're working on, and then I look forward to hearing questions. So as you all know, the Bay Area is in a transportation crisis. Congestion is up. Our greenhouse gas emissions are up, ridership on transit is down, and inequality is deepening here in our region. Based on this trend and based on the things that we all experience every day, we all know that we need to move together to address these problems. I'm here today to talk about the FASTER Vision. The FASTER Vision is a 9-county ballot measure that works to reduce congestion and improve transit connectivity, affordability, and accessibility. The FASTER Vision is a regional transit network that's faster than driving alone. We believe that transit should come every 15 minutes during the peak in most places. We should prioritize transit that is out of traffic, and we should invest in transit that serves the entire Bay Area region. FASTER is about a $100 billion investment in our regional network based on a 1-cent sales tax, as well about fundamental changes to how we deliver transit in the Bay Area. FASTER is based on the idea that the majority of funding will upgrade existing transit lines and also develop new transit lines to meet the FASTER standard. FASTER may include rail, ferries, and a 9-county rapid bus network that functions on regional express lanes. We hope that FASTER, similar to the measure that you all have, Jay, moving towards the March 20 ballot, will represent an equitable investment in our communities based on a sales tax fairness credit, a commitment to sustainable commutes for millions of workers, and a discounted transit fare for low-income riders and students on a permanent basis. FASTER will also have a large commitment to improving regional transit, which means that every county and every commute shed in the Bay Area will receive a guarantee of billions of dollars. Each transit operator will receive a guaranteed investment, and each county will receive money to support safe walking, biking, micromobility, funding for school buses, and for paratransit. Similar to your model, or highly influenced from the leadership that we have here at CCTA, we've decided that this is an outcome-based measure. We will deliver transit that's competitive with driving alone. We will have an outcomes-based and a performance-based measure, and every project will be a good value for the money. We have a very, very draft framework that based on a number of hours we've spent with transit and transportation leaders throughout the Bay Area region, including those represented here, represents a majority investment in the transit network, similar to your measure, connections to the faster transit network, a guarantee to make the network affordable and seamless, and a commitment from employers to help support investments in the region. A number of our programs will be similar to yours, focused on outcomes. The faster transit network will upgrade existing lines, expand and operate new lines, and as I mentioned, have a guarantee investment in each commute shed. Connections to the faster network will help fund local transit, active transit, regional innovation, local street safety, and carpools and van pools. Again, we are committed to making the network affordable and seamless. And again, the employer subsidy, which will help move this measure and make sure that sees its full extent. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for the presentation. Question is, how will we make employers make that commitment? Not sure what you mean by that.
Sure. Thank you so much for the question. The Bay Area Council and the Silicon Valley Leadership Group are working with our members on a number of different options. As you may know, in Seattle, there's been an extremely successful transportation demand management requirement as part of the measure. We're looking at something similar that works for the Bay Area. Many of our members lose employees every day because the commute throughout the Bay Area is so challenging. And many of our employees are already actually making this commitment to their employees. And so we're hoping that the wins and the successes from those that have been able to invest in this way influences others. I hope to come back with more specifics about that in the coming months. But right now, we're really having active conversations with our members.
Well, I appreciate you being here. And your group has done a great job over the years. But when you look up Apple Computer gross profit last year was $98 billion. If you take the major Silicon Valley companies, it's over $1.5 trillion. So over 40 years, the businesses who are causing the problem want all the taxpayers who pay 25 to 50% of their income in taxes, and those corporations now pay a flat 15%, less all the incredible deductions and all of the ways that you can say I'm reinvesting and hold it back. If each, just pick 10 companies, Apple could be one of them, just 10, Google, all of those, and they each put up $10 billion, we'd have $100 billion now, and not over 40 years, and not on the backs of taxpayers, who are also, by the way, paying for all of the education through the public school system to get all those workers there. So in a big question, they're spending a great deal of time and a great deal of money to try to get this, circumvent a lot of, let's call it our local government processes, and why don't they just write the check? In fact, they would be heroes. $100 billion is a raindrop in the ocean. So why are we sitting here being told that secretly, behind the scenes, this $100 billion plan over 40 years by a group of people who cause a problem? Where is their commitment? As we just asked, there's a little bit, maybe they'll do a subsidy for people who are commuting. Why don't they write the check? We'll be done. We would work together, bend over backwards. Maybe not backwards. Oh, maybe not backwards, but we'd bend over.
With all due respect, I don't think this is being done in secret. I'm here today to talk about it, and I've been communicating with staff of this board for a number of months, almost a year. Businesses will pay about $550 million annually through sales tax for this measure. And as I mentioned, the commitment that I referenced is not necessarily in secret; it's just not fully developed yet. But I appreciate the comments.
Any other comments? Yes, ma'am.
And I appreciate that. I thank you for the presentation. It's way high level. These are not criticisms of you, but I want you to take this back because I agree with Newell. We here in Contrast County are getting really tired of tax measure upon tax measure upon tax measure. We can't keep up with it in our own county. We don't know what's going to happen in March. I just need to share with you, we take this back to these three business organizations that I lost it. That them paying 500, whatever it is, I lose track of that in sales tax. Newell just brings up excellent points, and the concern is another cent on the sales tax. I don't know when it stops, and I've always defended California. I'm speaking more to my colleagues now. Our tax base because it supports stuff, but it's getting to a point where it's ridiculous. I mean, you're going to be talking 13 and 14 cents almost by the time things are finished, and I'm hearing talk that there are problems with FASTR, and they're running into these kind of things. So, again, I was one of the people that asked for this presentation. To be honest, I really thought it would be a little bit more in-depth about different things as opposed to this aspirational. Okay, well, I thank you, and I appreciate you keeping it short, but should this pass, where's the money going? Is it MTC going to be the one who doles it out? I mean, that's what I'm seeing, and I have, Ms. Worth sits on MTC, Mr. Glover sits on MTC, but this is just not cooked yet. I think it's bad timing. The public was just asked a year ago on RM3. We're going to be asking. The groups you represent need to know that as much as we may need these things, and we do, I don't disagree, there's got to be another funding mechanism than asking the taxpayer to do this, or the property owner. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm kind of the low bar here. My questions are pretty basic. I want to know how you're going to figure out how you split up the money between the counties, and there is another reason. Contra Costa pretty much pays all the bridge tolls, and we get almost none of, well, we get more because we pointed it out, but not as much as our fair share. So could you address the allocations and what we can do to encourage some kind of balancing? If they can't balance the jobs out here, can they at least balance the costs of getting to the jobs?
Certainly, and I think the transit is not in lieu of the commitment to jobs. It's, of course, still jobs are still top priority as well. As a draft strategy, we're thinking about the strategy 1, which is focused on building out the regional network, being a 75% return to source with a 25%. This is, again, extremely draft and preliminary and open to feedback. Projects of regional significance, and then in strategy 2, which is the local and active transportation county return to source metric.
Deborah, you had your light on.
Yeah. So just following up, you mentioned 550 million contributed by businesses in the 9 Bay Area counties.
$550 million is paid in sales tax every year if this measure passes by businesses. That's correct.
Okay, so 550 million per year will come from businesses to this under this measure.
That's correct.
Okay, so is there a study that actually tells us how we arrived at that 550 million? And does that study tell us by county where those business sales tax spending comes from.
I'm happy to get that information for
Okay,
you.
thanks.
And can I follow up on that? You know, business is a great term, but it covers a lot of things. Where Newell was going, I'm talking big business. I'm not talking, you know, a company that's 100 or less or whatever. The big employers, I want to know how much they would be contributing. 550 million sounds great, but we have businesses in this building that probably employ less than 25 people, and that is just not an accurate reflection. So thank you for thinking of a more specific informational kind of thing, because it's just so frustrating.
Well, and let me follow up one step further. So we're trying to figure out where the money is actually coming from. Is it all big businesses, or do mom and pops get hit for this? You know, the local deli, do they get hit? I mean, if it's small businesses, they're going to take a big hit. That's going to hurt. But follow up beyond the source of the revenue, other than the taxpayer's pocket. How is the return to source going to be calculated? Is it going to be based on the amount of money collected from the county, or is it based on population? How is that going to work? Because if you're talking about half the money a year coming out of the big Silicon Valley businesses, and they get that same proportion of the money back to them, that's not equitable. That's not fair to the employees who are trekking 60, 70 miles each way to work.
The current return to source that I discussed previously is based on sales tax.
I'm going to make a couple of comments.
In other words, it's awkward.
Well, and I guess the way I have to try to analyze this, I remember when I first got elected, and they talked the year 2020, and I've been in politics quite a while, and wow, it seemed so far out. So now we're up to something called 2040. Well, looking around the room, some of us won't be here. You know, another 20 years, there'll be a lot of change. And I see something that, as I think you're getting a little resistance from the board, but not really resistance. There's a lot of whys and a lot of ifs, and what if we do this and what if we do that. But I think before something this significant and this valuable passes, there's going to have to be a whole lot more information given. And then I can see pretty soon we add 1% here, we add 2% over there. My city now is kind of going to need some help, so we add a couple. Well, we can go up 2.5%, 3%. So pretty soon, the middle class is done. We can't even, first of all, we can't get there because we can't afford the fares to get there. So I think if you send anything back, and I'm just voicing my opinion, not necessarily the board, a lot of questions. And their magnitude of those questions is, you got to give us some really straight answers. And you're not going to do it tonight. I appreciate what you came here for. But I even think the aspirations have to be bigger. I think you need to go to the Silicon Valley and do the ask, because we have to ask. And so anyway, I think that's where I'm at as board chair. Randy, you had your light on.
Supervisor Perkins. Thank you. I really appreciate the comments coming from my colleagues tonight. I think when we talk about any type of measure, one of the things that we have found in Contra Costa is that we don't get the equity return. And so I think when you go back, and it's not to you personally, but go back to the group, they need to show where the equity for Contra Costa is going to be. And I will tell you, if it's not there, I don't see this body supporting any effort.
Randy, you want to go first?
No, I'm not stepping in front of any commissioner, please.
I just want to go back to the word equity, and this is something to take back. we all know we need more money to do our transportation. We got here in a lot of ways because the lack of funding. But the solution for the funding is a big deal. I mentioned some big companies. Intel, by the way, one of the largest companies in the Bay Area, one of the biggest employers. How much sales tax do they pay? 0, because they're wholesaling. How much does Google pay? And they do sell a little bit, but 98% of everything they do is not sales tax. Facebook, 0 sales tax. I could keep going through the list. So when we talk about equitable and what's fair for a tax system, it's the wrong concept of how to raise the money on the backs of the average person. And because you can't, sales tax goes everywhere. The retail community that is part of the backbone of all of our companies, all of our cities, will bear the brunt of this. They are competing against Amazon and things like that. They can barely survive. Adding another 0.5% or a full percent is just something that we can't do. So come up with another funding source that's equitable to the taxpayer, equitable to the businesses, equitable to people that create the problems who want to come up with the solutions. What I don't really appreciate is being told by the person who created the problem they want me to pay for it. That's a clear message. Sales tax is not the solution for this case. Our sales tax measure is because it's our money, it's our people, and they get a direct benefit.
It stays in the county.
And it stays here. What's being proposed by a great organization is being pushed by people who actually don't pay into it. They will get all the benefit. That's really important, and that hurts.
Now, Randy?
First of all, Gwen, thank you for coming out on voluntary basis and briefing us on a holiday evening. Thank you very. I know you have to be in Oakland at 8, so once again, thank you. She's been a great partner for us in that she listens to all of our complaining, staff's complaining. So what you don't hear is we got invited to a meeting with Senator Glazier on November 26th. It's in my report, and that was because Senator Bell had talked to him a couple of days before about this proposal of a 1 cent sales tax over 40 years that generates $100 billion. And he said it was the first time he had heard about it. And we have been working, staff here have been working diligently on, as you know, there's money and then there's regulation reform. And so, one of our initial proposals, I think Gwen remembers, is we said, well, look, make it so the local supervisors have to have a majority vote or a 4-to-1 vote in order to place this on the ballot. So you have local control. So this is an opportunity, and we're developing a governance kind of a package for your approval so that we can share this with our legislators so they go in not only thinking about $100 billion and where it's going to come from, but what do we need to do as far as regulations in order to make sure that we spend every dime that has the best value. So are we doing things the right way? Because you save money when you accelerate construction, as you know, in the right times. When you bond against future revenue, and you're in a recession era coming out of it, you get great interest rates and you do wonderful things with the money and people get it faster. And I like that idea. Get $100 billion up front. Give Contra Costa $60 billion of the $100 billion, and we'll do fantastic things with it for really inexpensively. So we're working on this. We've got a draft governance sheet that we need to get to you very shortly, so you can take a look at that so we can share it with our legislators. So it's not just about the money, but maybe it's a bully pulpit to start talking about some of the things that we want out here in the eastern part of the Bay Area that sometimes we get overlooked, and so this is an opportunity. So we're working on that for your approval.
Again, thank you. I bet you can't wait to get on the BART train going back to Oakland.
It's nice to be here. I'm happy to be here, and thank you so much for the comments and the feedback. I look forward to our continued conversation.
Okay, and we thank you, and I'm sure we'll have much more conversation on this.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
But I would like to tell you that feel free, and the whole board, we do want to hear what's happening. We don't want to cut the communication off. In other words, and if we can be of assistance, we'll gladly, I know some of us will gladly go voice what we just said to you.
Great. I appreciate the offer. I believe Randy has my contact information, so please feel free to reach out as well. Thank you again.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. That was just for information. We now go to 4.8.7, annual audit report. You'll be treated different. Depends on the report.
You've heard it once.
I do it.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. I'm here to talk to you about the annual CAFR. The CAFR process is a lengthy process that you have, it is CAFR season for all of your agencies, so you've either heard it or will be hearing it very soon from your finance folks. So the comprehensive annual financial report, we start in June and we don't finish up until about middle of November. So the introductory section has a transmittal letter. The authority goes through and talks about some interesting economic things that are going on in the county. We have the certificate of achievement that shows that the prior year has met all the current standards. And we also have an organizational chart in there as well as just some information. So what the CAFR is we present it to a number of ways. People go to our website, try and learn about what the authority does, where the money goes. It's all about transparency. And creating a CAFR is one of the most efficient ways to get transparency related to the financials. In the financial section, you have the independent auditor's report, which goes through and says if there's any findings, it talks about the audit process. Then you have the management discussion and analysis. That really gets into the details of what all the activities that happen during the year. And then we have your government-wide financial statements, which is an accrual of all of the information and all of the different funds that we do, and talks about all the programs and rolls it all together and accrues all the revenues we're going to receive, all the liabilities that we have. And then we have the individual fund financial statements and notes to the financial statements that go into a lot of detail. So as I go through the document in the APC, I went through a lot of detail. I'm going to try and step back just a little bit and give a little bit of an overview. And we get to the end, I'll be more than welcome to talk about some of the details if you should have any questions. So the statement of net position shows what our assets are, our liabilities, and our net position. You can see that we have a negative net position at the bottom, and it's $400,000. Well, or $400 million. Why do we have a negative $400 million? It's because we have debt, and we have no assets to show that. We dedicate assets to the cities, to the county, and the state as well for all of our construction projects. Our cash and investments to fund all of these programs decreased about $43 million. And the reason it decreased is we have these large construction projects that the ebb and flow of the construction projects changed from year to year. We had the 684, we had the closing of the Balfour, we have the Highway 680, and we also have some major BART projects for some minor infrastructure that we did for them. So we have a decline of about $43 million. We have deferred outflows of resources of about $40 million. That's related to future pension costs, OPEB costs, and the refunding of the debt that's amortized over the life of the bonds that will run through 2034. Our liabilities, again, is $534 million. That's our bonds. And then we have about $60 million of amortization that we write off the books between now and 2034. When you look at the revenues and expenditures for the year, you can see our revenues increased to about $135 million. The capital grants is what drives that up. Our sales tax went up about $6 million, which is about 6%. Our capital grants went up about $24 million. That's all related to you build it, we'll get reimbursements through our federal local contributors to pay for these construction projects. You go down to transportation projects, we spent about $109 million. Again, it's those larger construction projects that we had. So some of our financial highlights, we talked about sales tax. I presented before, sales tax is up about 6%. The federal, state, and local revenues, you can see that the transportation projects brought in about $26.5 million, congestion management about $1.8 million, TFCA, the transportation demand, is about $1.6 million, And then we go to administrative salaries and benefits is $626,000. That's less than the 1% threshold that we have. Again, the 20 staff members that we have are allocated over about 29 different divisions. So all of the work that we do for the administration to deliver our projects and to deliver the administration pieces and the expenses that go with that on the salary side is $626,000 a year. Our CalPERS, we made a lump sum payment last year of $1.2 million. Program expenditures, local street maintenance, all that is tied to return to source. As we receive the money, we return the source, we send the money out to the different programs. Transportation projects, again, $109 million. We list out the large construction projects in there. Debt service is level debt service between now and 2034, and it's going to be about $37 million a year. This last year, we paid $16 million in principal. Transfers into the general fund is about $43.6 million. A couple years ago in 2017, we issued a $100 million bond. As we can make the construction, if we don't have outside sources to fund it, we use these bond funds to pay for the construction pieces on that as well. In the notes to the financials, that's our disclosure. That's where we disclose everything that we do, and we try and explain it to the best we can. And so in note 3, cash and investments, as I mentioned before, went down about $43 million. You can see that the $174 million the authority currently has, $145.5 million is invested in investments. About $23 million is with the state of California in the LAIF program, and then about $29 million is set aside for the debt service funds, and about $15.4 million is left in the bond proceeds that will fund projects that we're working on right now. Long-term debt, we talked about the debt. The swap agreement fair loss value was $24.1 million at the end of the year. That fluctuates based off interest rates at the time when we close the year. One of the biggest things over the years has been pension plan and other post-employment health care benefits. So there's two items. You have your pension, and then you have your post-retirement health care. And I'm very happy to please by the actions that you have made over the years. Our pension liability is $1 million, but that's as of fiscal year 18. We made a $1.2 million contribution. And in the CAFR, the way we report it is always 1 year behind. It takes CalPERS a long time to get there and make all the adjustments. So we're sitting in a really good position with our pension. And then as far as our OPEB, which is our health care, we now have a $65,000 asset. We do not have a deficit there, and I hope it continues to grow. We talked about net position and fund balances, and every year when I look at this, we contributed $109 million to the capital project program. Since Measure C and Measure J combined, we've built about $1.7 billion of projects. The final section is the statistical section, and that really gives a 10-year trend that looks back. So if you look at the authority, we talked about the revenues that go up and down. Sales tax has been increasing over the last 10 years. You can also look at the programs. It seems pretty steady as we go through it. But the biggest thing in there is the capital projects. You can see the ebb and flow of the large projects that we've had. We also have something in there for debt capacity that talks about what our debt has been historically. And you can see in 2012 it increased. And then you can see some of the increases in 2015. And then it shows a debt per capita. And then some operational information. And that's some information about the authority. That spreads out. You can see in one of the worksheets in there where the 20 employees are allocated. What percent is in programs? What percent is in capital projects? What is in administration? So with that concludes my presentation on the CAFR. David Bullock was here to present to the APC. He made some comments about the CAFR report. And then he also made a presentation about the management letter. And in the management letter, there's 2 past adjustments that the authority, that the finance department has decided not to adjust. We always report our liabilities. We report our liabilities for vacation and sick on the employees, and we report that in the general fund. That was about $955,000. And then there was also the past for 2.3. We passed on an entry of about $2.3 million, which was insignificant for federal funds. We had some federal expenditures, but we usually don't get the federal funds until late November, December, so we didn't accrue for that. In the future, we'll try and match our expenditures and do the deferred revenue for that particular item there. Next month, as part of the audit process, we have completed the single audit, which is the federal audit side, and we finished the compliance audit. It's the funds that we send to the different agencies and the different consultants to work on Measure J projects. We send the auditing team out to work with these individuals and complete the audit. So we're presenting the Hannah Group, PlaceWorks, and the City of Clayton next month. I'm happy to let you know that all three of those were successful, and there is nothing to report on that. With that, that completes my presentation.
No.
We all come from good agencies. This is a great agency. Your report and the way you do it, Brian, it's complicated. I mean, to be sitting here with a balance sheet that says we're $400 and something million in the hole, it's because we get money, we build it, and we give it away. That's our job. So in the face value, it always is disconcerting. This is an awesome report. It really is. This is a great agency. I have, unbelievable as everybody else, we have so much confidence in you, how this agency is run. You made almost $7 million in interest alone this year. You covered all of our costs. We didn't actually spend any money to run this agency this year because of what you did. I'm proud to move this. So moved.
I have a first and a second, and if I were you, I'd say, well, is there a raise?
I definitely wanted to yield, Julie, would you yield the second to me? Because I, as the official CPA here, feel like I ought to feedback on this, and it is, I second everything that Newell said. It is a very complex situation, and you do it, and your explanation is probably one of the best I've heard in my over 30 years of listening to those dang explanations. So congratulations, and we're very proud of you.
Terry Ann, give her the second, okay?
Yeah.
She wants the second on this one. Let her have it.
Again, I'm going to start out. I had a first and a second. But going into discussion, I just want to tell you, now is the time to ask for a raise. When you give that good and you get it's got a report. But in all seriousness, obviously to the entire board, this is the way an agency should be ran. Yes. So I want to thank you. I do have a first. I do have a second. Any discussion? We'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
Wasn't that?
I got it.
Okay.
Going to 4A8.
Microphone's off again?
4A8, Connected Vehicle, Autonomous Vehicle Program. This is for.
4-2.
Right.
For
I
some
got
reason,
you.
it looked like.
Good evening, Chair Taylor and Commissioners. My name is Jack Hall, and I'm the CCTA ITS Connected and Autonomous Vehicle Program Manager. This evening, I'm going to give you an update on our CVAV program and report out on our $3.5 million grant from the California State Transportation Agency. The California State Budget Act of 2017 made $3.5 million available to CCTA for planning, construction, and operations of our CVAV program. The funds were matched with non-state funds generated by Gomentum Station partner facilitation fees. The goals of the CalSTA grant are to create a world-class CVAV test bed, provide public benefit to advance mobility and enhance safety, expand economic development opportunity and job creation in California, expand our public-private partnership, and deliver projects consistent with the grant agreement. The picture on this slide shows the new skid pad that several testing partners were asking for. One of the public benefits that we're working on is reducing congestion by addressing transit accessibility in major activity centers. We know that we can't build our way out of congestion, and technology can help solve our existing congestion problems. Pictured on the right is one of our new Ollie shuttles, which we believe will help solve the first and last mile problem getting to transit. I ride BART out of Antioch, and the parking lot is full by 6 a.m. BART has already expanded the trains from 2 cars to 3 cars, and they are adding more parking. But it is almost a certainty that the new lot will fill up quickly because State Route 4 is extremely congested even after our widening project. So we also believe that connected autonomous vehicles will be able to follow closer to each other, thus providing more throughput on existing lanes. Safety is the #1 goal in transportation, and Gomentum Station is a secure environment ideally suited for testing. We have vehicle-to-X or vehicle-to-everything testing. These pictures show pedestrian and animal targets that partners use for testing with their vehicles. There are also bicycles available for safety testing. We are proponents of alternative fuels. On the site, we have solar-powered generators used to power trailers used by our researchers. An innovation that we were recently exposed to proposes to use electric vehicles as mobile power plants. Using solar-powered electric vehicles, one can power your house and even office buildings if properly designed. Essentially, each electric vehicle is a mini power plant. With advanced energy storage systems, this could result in the uncompromising zero-carbon lifestyle. We are working on bringing Local Motors manufacturing plants to Contra Costa. These vehicles are 80% 3D printed, and a new plant requires a small footprint to construct. Pictured on the right is a high-speed oval test track. Partners are asking for the oval, however, the Navy will not allow major earth moving at this time. Our commitment to Concord is to not hinder land transfer from the Navy to Concord. If the oval track is realized, we would become a major competitor in the automotive industry worldwide, bringing in many jobs to the area. A lot of CV/AV technology is developed in Silicon Valley, and our partners prefer not to travel out of state, making Gomentum Station an ideal location. This slide highlights some of the recent improvements at Gomentum Station in the last 12 months, which include 340,000 square feet of pavement resurfaced in Bunker City, installation of 3 signalized intersections, including protected left turns, traffic equipment for scenario testing, and renovated co-working spaces, as well as creation of a signal lab that isn't shown in the pictures. And AAA is doing an outstanding job in the past 14 months as managing partner. Recently, the U.S. Secretary of Transportation, Elaine Chao, announced that we were one of 8 automated driving system demonstration grant winners. There were a total of 73 applicants, consisting mostly of universities and state DOTs. Our grant application was strong, and one of our biggest selling points was our partnerships with OEMs and our ability to test at Gomentum Station. A similar grant being implemented in New York City ran into problems being able to test. The U.S. DOT is aware of this testing limitation and gives more standing to agencies that have a test facility. It must be noted that this ADS grant is subsequent to the $8 million grant awarded to CCTA for Moss in April of 2019. This picture shows our 2 new Ollie shuttles that we are testing at Gomentum Station. Having American-made Local Motors Ollie shuttles versus French-made Easy Mile shuttles also helped our ADS grant application because of Buy America preferences. One of the performance goals for the CalSTA grant is to collaborate with the public and private sector. This slide tells a very good story for public-private partnerships, and we have 3 new partners in the past 3 months that aren't shown above. They are Waymo, NVIDIA, and Tesla. Those 3 companies alone are about as big as it gets in the CV/AV field. We have some great news to announce concerning land transfers from the Navy. The East Bay Regional Park District recently took possession of their allotted portion of the closed Concord Naval Weapons Station. We have obtained an encroachment permit to test on their land. The larger photo above shows the Park District's corporation yard in Pacheco that they currently lease. The smaller inset photo shows the interior of Building 420 located on the Park District land at Gomentum Station. The footprints of both buildings are almost identical. We have been pursuing Building 420 to use as a CV-AV workshop since 2015. We had a preliminary design complete, but were told to hold off until the land transfer. We are now working with the Park District to sign an MOU and their architect to renovate the building for Gomentum Station interim use and then permanent use by the Park District. The cooperation between CCTA, Gomentum Station, and the East Bay Regional Park District provides opportunities to test and deploy new, highly efficient autonomous mobility solutions. Accessibility for all means empowerment for all. Designed from the ground up, new mobility option technologies such as glideways will achieve both improved access and lower cost. Access to jobs, access to opportunity, access to nature, created in Contra Costa. Fully compatible with options such as bikes, scooters, and of course wheelchairs, a purpose-built vehicle can be efficient to provide flexible service, helping bridge that last mile without heavy infrastructure, lowering our impact, and planning for a sustainable future. Please save the date of March 10th for our 6th annual Redefining Mobility Summit held at Bishop Ranch. And now I'm going to play a short video that highlights Gomentum Station. Can you go ahead? Can you block that?
Welcome to Gomentum Station, a private and secure 2,100-acre proving ground for connected and automated vehicles, conveniently located 35 miles from San Francisco. Vehicles are tested against real-world scenarios with multiple distinct testing zones and a range of natural and man-made features, such as railroads, city blocks, and tunnels. Recent enhancements include programmable traffic signals, merge lanes, traffic circles, and bike lanes, making Gomentum Station an even more versatile space for closed course testing. To better serve our industry partners, we offer a range of automated vehicle testing services, including equipment rental, test plan development, engineering support, and result analysis. Gomentum Station is owned and operated by AAA of Northern California, Nevada, and Utah, and part of our ongoing commitment to safety on the road.
We have seen a lot of excitement for AAA taking over the operation of Gomentum Station, particularly within the industry.
What AAA wants to do is make sure that the technology works. They want to get behind that technology when it works because their mission is to reduce the fatalities and the injuries on our transportation system in the United States, if not the world.
Visit us at Gomentum Station today to see how we can help you meet your business goals.
So that completes my presentation. Staff seeks approval of the CalSTA Progress Report.
Vehicle to Everything, also known as V2X technology, can benefit communities in many ways.
Sorry about that. So that completes my presentation. Staff seeks approval of the CalSTA Progress Report and authorization for the chair to submit the report to the Secretary of Transportation and Joint Legislative Budget Committee. And that's with spelling and grammar corrected. We also met with the City of San Ramon today, and they requested a few minor edits to report, and they're listed in your handout. San Ramon is an outstanding partner, and they're great to work with. That includes transportation, engineering, and the police department. I would be happy to answer any questions.
And also, I have a speaker card. Bruce Olson on this topic.
Thank you. Good evening. Bruce Olson. I did not ride my bicycle to this meeting tonight. I came on BART. I'm a lightweight. It was raining. But the subject is serious. We're talking about automated vehicles. Last year, 6,000 pedestrians were hit and killed by cars. 870 bicyclists were killed by cars. That's about 18% of all the people that died as a function of cars. In his report, Jack showed the video targets that they are working with out at the Gomentum Station. I'm going to make a request that we create a little black box that the pedestrian or bicyclist can wear, and it can broadcast to the autonomous vehicle saying, hey, don't run over me. I'm a human, okay? And I'm justifying this not only by the deaths, but also 2 months ago, we had our first cross-country truck that went from Southern California to Eastern Pennsylvania completely autonomously. It had a safety driver, it had an engineer, but they did not have to intervene with the truck operating. Okay, so now AAA, they're involved in this project too. Two weeks ago in the Sunday paper, there's an article about pedestrian detection systems for the automatic braking systems in currently on the road cars. These are 2019 and 2018 cars. How well do these pedestrian detection systems work? AAA found they worked very poorly. They used the term inconsistently, but they said at night when 75% of pedestrians are killed, these pedestrian detection automatic braking systems don't work at all. So this is a problem. So we can fix it. It could be an app on the phone with maybe a little plug-in extra battery so that we don't kill the phone, but just some way to transmit to the car, hey, don't run over me, I'm a bicycle, or I'm a pedestrian. And it's been, my theory has been critiqued and said, well, what if the pedestrian forgets? Well, you know, that's a problem, but it'll be way better than what we currently have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce. Are there comments, questions, staff?
Commissioners, you know, Bruce brings up a good point. The highest increase percentage-wise in the fatality rate in the United States is pedestrians and bicycles. And I think that with technology we can do better. We're actually looking at a company that's doing exactly that. It's an app that will help identify bicycles and pedestrians if you turn that app on. And it works like a warning beacon. And so that's I gave a speech at Volpe, which is in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's the Research Center for the United States Department of Transportation. And they want to know more about our innovation program. And I thought it was all researchers, but there was a lot of companies in the crowd at that time. And this guy was one of the people. He's trying to develop a safety app for riders just like Bruce. And so we've had a couple conversations, Jack and I, and Tim with him. It's RIDAR Systems. So we're looking at that.
Julie?
You know, driving over here tonight, I was driving through the BART station because the backup at Jones Road and Oak Road was so long. So I cut through the BART station, and there are several crosswalks there, and dark and rainy, and people wearing all black. You know, we used to be told you got to wear white, you got to have a reflector, you got to have something. At least when we grew up, we knew we had to be visible at night. These people were absolutely not. I was stopped waiting to make a turn. There were people coming out of the dark 3 feet away from me that I could not see. And, you know, maybe that needs to be an app that works two ways, not just with autonomous vehicles, but so that the person driving can have a phone receiving from so it goes back and forth, but not just to an autonomous vehicle, to a vehicle that is not that new. I mean, my car's 13 years old. I would love to have my phone be able to say, there's a person there, dummy, stop. You know, it would be helpful. So, you know, some of our other folks who are developing products, that might be something they could work on.
So that's exactly the way it works. It's the driver has the app, the bicycle or pedestrian has an app. If it's a great...
So it's not built into the car?
No, it's separate currently. So that's the idea of trying to act like a beacon. The other thing is we're trying to figure out a way of gathering funds together to build what they call a bicycle garden. And we're working with the city of Concord. And this goes back to your point. Statistics show that if we train our children how to ride properly with the right kind of clothes, there statistically, and I don't want to have get in the way of Mr. Olson there because he generally challenges me on these things, so I'll just say this. Statistically, somewhere it's been proven that if children are taught how to ride a bicycle properly at a young age, statistically they're safer as adult drivers, and that includes the clothes that you wear. Would that be correct, Mr. Olson? There you go. Thank you. Thank you for validating that. Appreciate that.
Kevin.
I just want to thank Jack for a really nice presentation and a lot of work. I was out there a couple of years ago at the facility, and the changes just in the pictures I've seen have been immense. It was rather rugged a number of years ago out there, and the changes and the updates that have occurred during that time look like they have made that facility a place to be, as opposed to maybe not so central to the process. Maybe we need to have that software also remind the walker that you should be in a crosswalk. Maybe it needs to glow. I mean, if we're going to do this, maybe the phone needs to glow at night so we have some way of knowing. If they want to wear all black, fine, but at least we in some way of identifying that there has to be something on the pedestrian themselves, not to make the dangerous cross in the middle of the street, in the middle of the night in the driving rain, wearing black. It is not a really good idea to try to run across the street. And so maybe there's ways we can shock them when they do something like that, to say, back into the crosswalk and whatnot. But once again, Jack, well done. Appreciate your effort and your work, and thank you.
With that, I will entertain a motion.
I'll move the item, and thank you, Jack.
I have a first and I have a second. Is there any more discussion? We'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
We'll now move into 4B4, which would be a public hearing. And I do have a script here, so I have to go through the script to make it right. Introduction. We are now on the public hearing item related to the approval of the 2019 Congestion Management CMP update for Contra Costa. Staff presentation. We'll begin with a brief staff report. Mr. Matt Kelly.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. Good evening, members of the authority. It's great to be here. Every 2 years, I'm back for this very exciting item, the Congestion Management Program. As you know, when I come here every 2 years, I let you know this is a legislatively required document. As we are a congestion management agency here in California, it must be updated every 2 years, and we've done so since way back in 1991. The Congestion Management Program has 5 required components. We have to establish level of service standards for a network of arterials and freeways around the county. We have to establish performance measures for those arterials and freeways to ensure the performance of the system for the movement of people and goods, so it's a multimodal performance measure. We have to establish a capital improvement program that identifies projects that will improve the network around the county. And we also must have a program to analyze the impacts of land use decisions on the transportation system. And finally, we must adopt a travel demand model that can analyze those interactions between development and the transportation system. As I say every 2 years, the Congestion Management Program legislation from back in 1991 was based on Measure C's Growth Management Program. So the state basically created the CMP using our GMP as a model. So for that, our GMP does take care of a lot of those requirements. The action plans cover the land use impacts to the transportation system, things like that. So the CMP must also demonstrate consistency with the currently adopted regional transportation plan. So the 2019 update of the CMP does document that consistency with the RTP known as Plan Bay Area 2040. So the 2019 update of the CMP is basically a technical update where we focused on bringing it up to date with changes over the last 2 years. We brought you the draft in July, and the comment period started then and was open through October. we focused on updating a few chapters. One, the monitoring chapter, and that's actually a separate report where we go out and monitor 65 intersections around the county. We collect vehicle counts along with bicycle and pedestrian counts and do level of service for those intersections. We also do freeway performance of all freeway segments in the county, and that draft report is out for review now. We also have updated our performance element where we update the document with our performance measures from our countywide transportation plan, our action plans, the RTP, our bike pedestrian plan, and those from our 5 transit providers. And if the TEP passes in March, we will have a whole lot more performance measures to add to this document. The 7-year capital improvement program this year has $17.2 billion worth of programs or of projects, up from $16.5 billion in 2017. We added the projects from the TEP and others that have been added by our local project sponsors. And as you can see in the staff report and in the executive summary, the investment levels by mode pretty much match what we have in the TEP, where about 60% is going to transit and active transportation modes, and the other 40% to arterials and freeways. We documented the effect of SB 743 on the CMP and how we are asking that the state update their CMP legislation to reflect the change away from LOS that SB 743 brought about. And we've also documented the changes to our model that have occurred since 2017, including the fact that we are transitioning to an activity-based model, as you all approved last month. So the 6 CMAs in the Bay Area, actually 6 other CMAs, including ourselves, 2 counties are not CMAs. All those CMPs are adopted under one item at MTC, and we will be submitting the final CMP to MTC as soon as it's adopted here. And we will submit our model consistency report to MTC staff under separate cover. That's all I have for you today. I can take any questions.
Questions to staff? Or, I don't think we have much choice. I think we have to do it. Public comments. The public hearing is now open for anyone wishing to make a comment on the 2019 CMP. Does anyone like to speak on this item? Okay. There were no speaker cards submitted. Oh, it even says here.
Are you ready?
Yes.
I'm going to make a motion.
They said I'm supposed to sound the gavel.
Oh, all right.
I'm reading it verbatim.
Okay.
Sounded the gavel.
Open and close the public hearing.
Okay. Do you make a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the report and do whatever it is that we're supposed to do with it.
Okay, well, now, I sounded the gavel. We'll now close the public hearing. Motion. I have a first. Second. I have a second. Any discussion?
And just to clarify, that is to adopt the Resolution 19-63G.
Correct.
All right, I have a first, I have a second. Is there any more discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Matt. 485, status update on the Contra Costa community-based transportation plans. Are you as nervous as you were the first time?
No, he's confident.
I'm sorry?
Now then, go ahead.
I think I've got the gist of it. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. I'm James Hinkamp, Associate Transportation Planner, here to give you an update about the ongoing effort to also update 4 Contra Costa community-based transportation plans. The report will essentially bring you up to speed. It is entirely verbal. It is also just informational. It is also a preface to a report that you are expected to receive in early 2020 when the CBTPs are closer or will be just about complete and subject to your review and approval. So the 4 CBTPs in question are being developed for communities of concern according to guidelines developed by the MTC. And as you may be aware, MTC defines these communities of concern as geographic areas that are composed of certain demographic thresholds at the census tract level. And if one of those geographic areas meets a combination of 8 variables, then they are considered a community of concern. For some visual reference, there is a map attached to the staff report, and you will see that there is a CBTP for downtown Martinez, the Monument Corridor in Concord, the Pittsburgh Bay Point area, which also includes portions of western Antioch, and the Richmond area, which also includes unincorporated county such as North Richmond and San Pablo. Ultimately, the objective is to identify strategies that will enhance transportation mobility and accessibility for these communities of concern, which are traditionally challenged in this arena. The effort includes data collection of existing conditions, public engagement, much of which occurred over the summer and is wrapping up this fall, strategy development and evaluation based on that feedback, and then producing a cohesive document to prioritize those strategies and qualify for future funding programs. So for each CBTP, staff and consultants have also benefited from the guidance of a project working group, which is of a technical nature comprised of local agency staff and stakeholders, and then a steering committee as well, which we invited numerous public officials from the area and also leadership from local nonprofits and the like. With the help of 2 consulting teams over the past year, these are Nelson Nygaard and PlaceWorks. They have each taken on 2 of the CBTPs each for a total of 4. We are nearing completion according to the scope of work. And there's additional detail in the staff report on the milestones that we have accomplished, and would refer to pages 4B5-2 through 4B5-4. Most recently, we convened 2 steering committees, and those just occurred last week. Those were for downtown Martinez and Concord, and the other 2 for Richmond and Pittsburgh Bay Point will be next month. And they are reviewing the proposed strategies and the draft final plan documents, and then you will see the final documents, which will be subject to changes as you see fit. Staff is also availing itself to presentations to local agencies. So for each of the areas, we have let them know that if they have committees or councils that will require a presentation, we are happy to do so. City of Concord has, in fact, already requested a presentation at their council, and this will likely be in late January. And then in conclusion, thanks to this board's support of amendments to the 2 consulting contracts just last month, we are still on track to meet the original scope of work and present these CBTPs to you in the February or March timeframe. So that concludes my update. And again, this is informational, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Very good. You must have done good. You didn't get any questions. Perfect. We thank you. And that was for information purposes only. 4.2, a new item. Authorized participation to the California Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program. Peter.
Good evening, Chair Taylor and Commissioners. I wanted to bring this forward to you tonight just to give you some information on a partnership that we're looking at with Marin Clean Energy, which wants to submit a grant application on behalf of all of the counties that they have members within the Bay Area. Specifically, of course, we're just going to be looking at Contra Costa County. We will come back in January at your direction with a fully baked partnership. But so I don't come back with a half-baked partnership. I wanted to bring this to your attention tonight to get some additional direction from you. The program is sponsored by the California Energy Commission. They put up the funds and they look for partners to work within the counties. They've identified Contra Costa County as an important county to provide funding to meet the need of additional EV charging infrastructure in order to meet the statewide goals. So MCE approached us to ask if we would be willing to partner with them. They also approached Contra Costa County, and county staff is working through the county mechanism to see if they can partner. But from CCTA's perspective, MCE has asked if we can provide funding. and then help manage our side of this partnership. We've identified that we could provide Transportation Fund for Clean Air funds and potentially Measure J community alternative funds. It probably wouldn't be a large amount because we would want to continue to maintain our ongoing TDM programs that we fund. But we do have some questions that we're still working through and will be working through until your meeting in January. Some of those are, will we be allowed to identify priority areas within our county that receives this funding from the CEC? Right now, the CEC has identified only at a county level. They haven't identified sub-areas in the county. Based on the EV Blueprint Readiness Plan that we did, we know that we have specific priority areas within each of the subregions that we would want to make sure we address. So we're still trying to get that question answered with the CEC, as if we can go beyond just a county and actually have the funding go to these more subregional areas. And one of the other issues is if we use TFCA funding or the reporting that we receive from CEC, are we going to be able to, is it going to be the right information that we need in order to report to the Air District the proper use of our TFCA funds? So how this works is any of the agencies that are partners and put in the funds, basically they transfer those funds or make those funds available to the CEC. Anybody that wants to install an EV charging station would apply online. They would automatically have those funds reserved for them, and then they would have to meet the criteria associated with that. Once they meet that criteria, they would receive that incentive. It's an incentive-based program. The incentive amounts would be set once we establish that we are willing to move forward. We would sit down with CEC and the other partners in Contra Costa County, and we would come up with what the incentive amounts would be and kind of the timeline for providing those funds. So how the money is spent are already prescribed by the CEC. Those are in your staff report, so you can see those. They have to be level 2 or DC fast charge stations. So that's perfectly fine. That's what we're looking for from what the blueprint said that we need to do. A little bit more information. The CEC has decided or done an analysis, and they feel that Contra Costa County would need $11.5 million to reach 50% of the required or needed level 2 chargers and 30% of the DC fast chargers in the county by 2025. So the proposal that MCE is starting to put together would be a request for $5.75 million from the CEC to be matched at $2.8 million from MCE, and they have asked the partners, us and the county, to go and see if we can find matching funds to join with their funds to do that. So essentially that's where we're at right now. There's a lot of detail provided in your packet through a PowerPoint that was provided by the CEC to partners. The deadline that we're working with is MCE is submitting the required application packet, which is essentially a letter of intent, and that we would be identified as a partner in that with a committed funding amount, but that amount isn't, we're not held to that amount until the board officially takes action, which could be in March. So they're just trying to get a level of the funding that we could commit to the project. And MCE wants to submit that letter at the end of January, so we have time to come back to you for your January meeting. The letter isn't due to the CEC until the middle of February, but they want to get a little advanced submittal. And then over the next few months, we would work with the CEC to refine the program. So just looking for your input. If there's anything that I should be thinking about that I haven't thought about that I need to work with MCE or CEC on over the next month to make sure I get that into our partnership or application, or if you want to give us direction, just don't pursue this at all, that's fine too. There is potentially an alternative. We decide not to partner on the Cal EVIP program. We could still provide funds as a layered incentive for someone who does get a Cal EVIP grant. So if somebody wants to put in a charging station, they get the Cal VEIP incentive. We could come and layer on top of that incentive with some of our own funds, and then we could really take a look at, specifying those incentives in our priority areas within the county. If we did it that way, it might, it wouldn't give the application for the Cal EVIP as much strength because the match amount would be a little bit different. So just a few things that we're trying to think through and work through on this.
Are you asking now for
Yes.
comments?
Any
comments
comments?
from the board? Back to Peter? Newell.
Peter, I have no knowledge about this, and I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is. SB 454, there's one of the requirements on the list that if you put in a charging station after, I think it's 2023, it has to comply with that. What does that mean? Because I thought it was a grant program, 454, but is it two aspects?
So the Cal EVIP is a grant program. The 454, I'm not sure with the absolute details, but it's an additional requirement with regard to the EV chargers have to meet a certain compliance level, the chargers themselves. So anything that goes after that date would have to meet these kind of additional compliance levels. And I can get back to you with the details on that.
Yeah, just out of curiosity. Thanks.
Other questions, comments? Looks like you're on the right track. This is an action item, so.
Yeah, well, just to give me direction to go ahead and continue to pursue the partnership.
I guess you got green, so it's a green light. Action item, do we need to make a motion, someone?
We move to accept this report and move forward with.
So we do not need to vote on this? Okay.
You want them to agree to pursue funding, it looks like?
Yes.
A funding partnership?
Yes, or identify funds and continue with the partnership.
All right.
Move forward.
Have a first, we have a second. Is there any more discussion? We'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Correspondence communication. Associated committee reports. Anything? Correspondence, staff reports, chair's comments. I have nothing. Commissioners? Ex officios? Executive staff?
I have a commissioner, sorry.
I'm sorry, Amy. I'm moving along.
I have a very brief report since most
Okay.
of you gave it for me last month. I attended the Focus Conference, but was not able to be here last month to report out that I attended the conference. But again, I think, as you all heard, the self-help counties around California are doing phenomenal things. And what is beautiful about the way this is set up is that each county is able to determine what are the highest priority needs for their particular county and fund it, but then also work very cooperatively between counties where they share commute sheds. So a good example of this in our region is, 680, where we work with the three counties closely. So it was an honor to attend and to, of course, hear the highlight of our keynote speaker, who did a history of the beginning of time to where we are in transportation. Anyway, and the other thing is, as you know, MTC is embarking on Plan Bay Area 2050. Seems so far away. And as you know from Commissioner Pierce, that it will be a particularly exciting plan because this will include RENA. So we are now deep into it, and I know our staff will be working closely with MTC and ABAG staff as this moves forward. So we'll look forward to getting your input as we move through the process.
No.
Oh, no, sorry.
No.
A couple of things. As of last night, Richmond has a new city manager.
Hey.
The fourth or fifth one in 6 months, I've lost count. Laura Snyderman, who's currently deputy city manager in Fairfield and former city manager in Half Moon Bay. So she will start toward the end of January. Second item, after the presentation on the FASTER project, I contemplated that for a while, and I just had a couple of remarks. One is, of course, I agree with Newell and some of the others who were critical of where the money's going to come from. I think you're right on. And, you know, you were talking about some of these companies not paying sales tax. Well, a lot of them don't pay any taxes. They don't pay any federal taxes. They don't pay any state taxes. They don't pay anything. And you know, they're the ones who are driving this crisis, and we got to find a way to get them to help us pay for it. However, what I do appreciate about that faster concept is that it's a go big or go home approach, and I think we have to do that. You know, I've lived in the Bay Area off and on, but mostly since the late '60s. And, you know, and I saw BART come in, and I saw how transformational BART has been on the Bay Area. But, you know, other than ferry service, that's really the only big transportation project that we've done in half a century or more. And we got to start thinking big. And one of the things that I'm disappointed with is that so much of our effort and so much of our money goes to trying to coax more transportation out of freeways, and I just don't think it's there. You know, we had a presentation on the smart corridor at WCTAC last week. And the bottom line is, here's the conclusion. Well, it would have been a lot worse without it. You know, it really didn't make things any better. And so, I mean, that's kind of what it is. You know, we tweak these things, and that's kind of the conclusion. Well, it would have been worse if we hadn't done it. I mean, the point is, it is worse. And it's not getting any better. And then we had a presentation on an express bus plan for West Contra Costa County. And part of that plan was to expand park and ride lots and build parking places at $117,000 a pop. In other words, we're going to pay $117,000 to get one person out of their car and onto a bus. It just doesn't make any sense. And I just see this time after time. You know, we're all talking about autonomous vehicles, and I think they're very exciting and very great. But nobody's really explained how that's going to get traffic off the road. So anyway, I think it's time to go big or go home and concentrate on some transportation modes that are really going to get people somewhere fast and bypass the bottlenecks and the log jams. And so far, we've only got two ways to do it. We've got rail transit, both heavy and light, and we've got ferries. And all this work we're doing on freeways is just stopgap. It's really not gonna fix anything. So.
Okay. Yes, Deborah.
So thank you. Over at BART, final meeting of the year is tomorrow. It's mostly a holiday party and board rotation. Wanted to just give you a quick hyperloop of 2019. Was definitely a year of transition at BART. We did add 26 police officers. We approved a new Fairgate prototype. We're looking for funding to reprioritize that project and move it up so it's not 5 years from now. Substantial progress was made in the infrastructure projects thanks to funding that we received both from this agency and Measure RR and other places. We now have 2 10-car trains running on the Antioch Yellow Line, and we believe we've got the production of trains normalized, that we'll start seeing at least 10 cars, somewhere between 10 and 20 cars per month being added to the system going forward. We We've got Clipper usage well over 80%, so that's great progress to eliminating our paper tickets so that, as I like to say, we come up to about the year 2000 in our technology. We really need to get to a point of this being our method, and that's underway as well. But we've got to get off paper tickets. Many management changes over the year, a new general manager, a new deputy general manager, new assistant general managers, a police chief still out there somewhere. Hopefully he or she arrives soon. But looking forward to 2020, I think things will continue to improve. I think at BART we sort of are on the upswing, the other side, with all of the infrastructure work that's being done. The trains will get quieter. They'll get newer. They will be cleaner, and I myself really pray they will be safer, and that's a huge priority for me. So on behalf of everyone at BART and myself, of course, I wish all of you happy holidays and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Mr. Executive.
Well, from staff, happy holidays to the commissioners and also the folks in the audience. You're our partners. Many of you help us deliver our projects and programs, and we really appreciate the partnership. We hire you because you're an extension of our staff, and I think you saw the financial report. We keep our pension low, but we still deliver a gazillion dollars worth of improvements, although Commissioner Butt may not see exactly 100% of the results right away. The ferry service is outperforming all expectations, and so is the extension of BART. As far as the regulations, I forgot to mention Rick Ramesher is helping us make sure that bus operators are included in the dialogue, and the regulations aren't cutting anybody out, our proposals, ultimately. So I think Rick's, is that correct? You're involved? You and the other...
You say so.
Yeah, thanks. I do. Okay. Number.
Call me out during the measuring sessions, so I eventually speak.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Number 3, I forgot to mention last month. Secretary Chow invited us to a roundtable on accessibility and mobility for all. So she is concerned about making sure that the underserved portions of our community are getting access to all this smart cities and smart transportation and all that. And so we were, once again, a small organization in Contra Costa, got invited to sit at the table with the big agencies. So that was pretty nice. Don Tatson, thank you. He brought all the truffles today. He couldn't make it. He is doing something else tonight. I can't remember exactly what it was. Oh, it's a band. He's playing He's playing a band. So he's wearing his tuxedo, so he's excited about that as he left today. And lastly, this is Susan Miller's last meeting, and I know she's getting emotional. I don't want to, add to that emotionalness about having 21 years of board meetings every third Wednesday of the month, except for August. So you want to present something, or is the chair going to do that? So
sure.
we have a couple of pictures mounted on a board that people signed, and so hopefully you enjoy that, and you can look at that and tell your grandkids, yeah, this is what Grandma used to do.
I'll come around. And I'm going to come to the podium. Are you finished, sir?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you, and thank you for the support, and happy holidays.
We're going to make a presentation, and I'm going to have Julie go up there, because Julie's probably known her from the day she started. So we'll come up and get a photo with you, and then before we sound the gavel again, there's going to be refreshments right across through the doors. A beautiful dessert thing staff has put out, and it's open for everybody. I think you should walk over there. And I want to say this to Susan.
You can lift the screen up and get Contra Costa.
Yeah, we want to say, Susan,
lift the screen.
Dedication, many, many years, and I'm coming up. But again, from behalf of the board, staff, everyone, Merry Christmas, and have a safe and happy New Year.
And I should stand with you also, Julie, because we came on at the same time.
Wow, come on then. Come on up there.
If that goes up, we can put it
Stand in front of the Christmas tree.
creamer will go up?